Alright, my fellow D&D nerds, as I'm sure you have seen all over the internet and probably all over YouTube, 1,001 videos looking at the new Unearthed Arcana character origins. I know I'm late to the bandwagon. Everyone did their videos, Bob Worldbuilder, Treant Monk, all those guys, Dungeon Dudes even did it. I like a lot of their opinions. I do feel like most of them miss some things. So you could be just coming here for another echo chamber. You could be coming here to see if I have a unique opinion. Maybe I do. Generically, usually I don't. Pretty normal guy that usually agrees with the masses. But there are a few things that I want to talk about today that I actually didn't see a lot of the mainstream YouTubers talking about. Not a big deal. Just maybe they didn't notice it, or maybe they're so veteran that these kind of things don't consider it. But as someone who didn't start the hobby until in their 20s, because I was always afraid of being labeled too much of a nerd if I played Dungeons and Dragons. Really weird high school life, but got into it late in life, introduced at 3.5, did not play 4E, went 3.5, Pathfinder, 5E. So I don't have the 2 AD experience and all that other stuff that a lot of these guys have. But I am very comfortable with 5E and have been playing it for a good bit. So these changes, I mean, I'm nervous. I'm nervously optimistic, but I'm still nervous. And I say this mainly because I like 5E. I know a lot of people have complaints about it. It's easy to homebrew. It's easy to house rule. It's easy to edit. So whatever I don't like, I can fix easy. It's kind of like Skyrim. Skyrim's not popular because it's a super awesome game. Skyrim's popular because it's easy for you to make it an awesome game. So we're going to look at this new Unearthed Arcana character origins, and I'm going to give you my thoughts that you've probably heard half of them a dozen times, but maybe some of them are new. So let's get in it. I'm not going to cover everything. If you have the ability to read. Let's see. Basic races, the character overview, talking about size, speed, lifespan. If you played 5e, most of this is still the same. The background trait is where they're moving most stuff. So they're making backgrounds the pillar in which you build your character, which I've always liked. I've seen a lot of websites do house rules or homebrew rules where you don't get your modifiers from your race. You get them from the background. In specific backgrounds, add an extra modifier. Like Sage gave you a +1 to intelligence. Soldier gave you a +1 to like constitution or something like that. Really cool. I think backgrounds are one of the more underrated things in standard 5e. And I say this because most people don't look at what the background's additional features are, only the provided skills and equipment. We'll get into that when we get down to the background section. But first, let's look at races. Human, they stuck with variant, trash standard, threw it away. The only time you really played standard was when you were playing a really mad build, which is fine. A lot of people, those Sorkadins or unique heavy armor wizards or something like that, or like the ones where you're probably trying to get a third multi-class dip, the standard human was useful, but only then. And again, the people who are doing that are veteran players who can work around not having the standard human. So I'm okay with them getting rid of the standard human and sticking with the variant human. They did double down. You get the skilled feat or the feat at first level. They recommend skilled, but skilled isn't necessary. I don't know how I feel about this. I only say that because everyone gets a first level feat now, all races, because it comes from your background. So if you're playing, we're going to pretend these are all set in stone rules, because that's how you play test. These are the new rules. So with these new rules, hypothetically, everyone has a first level feat. Unless you're a human, you just get to have 2. Which, okay, yeah, that's cool. And I can build a lot of builds. Like, one of those feats is either Lucky or Magic Initiate every single time, whatever build I make. But I don't know, I feel like there was a little bit, like, less uniqueness. They just thought, let's double down on this extra feat, just keep the variant human. I don't know. I don't know what I would have done different. I know most people don't have a complaint about it, because, I mean, who's going to complain about getting 2 first level feats? I don't know. I think it's an interesting choice, but overall, I don't think it's going to make or break the race. I do like the resourceful feature. You gain inspiration, a point of inspiration, whenever you finish a long rest. We will talk about how they have changed inspiration down further on the PDF and my opinion on it. So I do like that humans are always have at least 1 inspiration, which means they're always resourceful. Which means, let's say you're a human rogue and you don't have advantage. Well, you're a human. You're pretty resourceful. You're going to give yourself advantage on that one turn where you don't have it. So I don't mind that. Next, we come to the Ardlings. The Ardlings are interesting because there's a lot of people debating on the point of the Ardlings. Some people were saying the Ardlings are meant to replace the ASMR. I always called them Asmir until I started hearing how other people actually pronounce their names, and I felt really dumb because they are not ass smears. They are ASMRs. Cool. My bad. So people were saying that Ardlings may replace them only because they're angelic. Well, right here you see Angelic Flight. They're celestial almost. So that's what some people were saying. Other people were saying they're actually meant to end the anamorphic desires. Like, they don't have to keep pumping out races for every different animal. If you want to play a specific kind of like animal human hybrid, you just play an Ardling. You get to have that. I would like to see them release some art for this, but then also I wouldn't, because what I'm envisioning probably isn't what they're envisioning. So I don't want them to release art and it be like disappointing, but I also want art to see where their mind is on what these aesthetically look like. But either way, looking at the Ardlings, standard movement, long lifespan. They can be small or medium, which the humans also have this ability. That's actually pretty cool because of the advantages different sizes give you. The being small, being medium, there's different builds for each one. A lot of people would take Halfling or Goblin because being small gave them certain advantages. I'm interested to see how this plays in actual gameplay. Having a small human and a large human, or medium human, I don't think it will mess anything up. I think it's just a flavor thing. Like, you may be able to build something around being small, but again, they can't factor in every min-maxer. Angelic Flight. So when you look at the Ardling, as a bonus action, you sprout spectral wings for a moment and fly up to a number of feet equal to your speed. If you are in the air at the end of this movement, you fall if nothing is holding you afloat. You can use this bonus action a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, and you regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. You can jump. You got hops. Cool, I guess. Personally, this is just... They didn't want to give it... It seems like they were afraid to give it flight. And again, I don't know why they're making some of these decisions, but I do notice they're following a lot of house rules. So I wonder if they listen to a lot of those lazy DMs who complained about flying races having, being OP at lower levels, so they wanted to limit the flight. I think instead they could have just gave you a flying ability. Like, the Angelic Flight should improve as you level up. you know, like a cantrip, you know, just whatever the levels of your cantrip boost, like 5th, 10th, or whatever those levels are. I don't know off the top of my head, but your flight gets better when you hit those markers. I think that would have been better. I think that would have been a better choice than just this jump ability. Going down, of course, they gave them racial spell lists. Cool. Again, most of these are recommendations when it comes to the suggested animals. There's nothing saying you can't be a heavenly goat man or an idyllic pig man or woman. Sorry, as a man, I defaulted to man. Now, I will say, I think you're going to see a lot of people going for idyllic, mainly because guidance at first level for a non-caster is amazing. Being a rogue and just being able to give yourself guidance before you do anything, super awesome. I don't like that you constantly have to like remember to do guidance before doing something. I like how the Baldur's Gate, when you're playing the game, if you have a cleric in the party, as you're picking a lock, you can press triangle to get guidance from the cleric. I would like to think like guidance is instead something passively affecting the party. If you have a cleric in there, maybe give clerics an ability like that. But as a spell, anyone being able to pick that up just because they're an Ardling seems pretty cool. Of course, you could always just take Magic Initiate and get it, especially now that Magic Initiate is a first level feat and everyone gets a first level feat. I don't know, man. Healing Word's pretty powerful too, but you don't get it till 3rd level. If you're not a spellcaster, I can see that being pretty beneficial. Or if you are an arcane spellcaster, this is pretty beneficial. You don't have to waste your free feat taking Magic Initiate to get these. You can get them with your race. The one thing I will lean really hard on away from Idyllic is the Exalted getting Divine Favor at 3rd level. That is it's interesting that they chose a half-caster spell from the Paladin spell list as a racial spell. That is pretty impressive. And I will also talk about half-casters later down in the PDF as we get to it. So that's, in the least the least impressive is damage resistance to Radiant. Cool. Barely ever going to come up. Maybe if you're doing like a Hell campaign, or no, even then a Hell campaign won't come up. I don't know why I said that. I meant like a Heavenly campaign where you're trying to overthrow gods. I don't know. I get what they're trying to do, because you're an angel. Resisting radiant damage resisting radiant damage makes sense. But I would say if you're a holy being, you're made to face evil. So I would give them resistance to necrotic and radiant. The ASMR had that. Some people would say it's overpowered having 2 resistances at the start, but like 2 resistances, like I don't even count radiant damage as a resistance. How often are you getting smoked by an NPC? Like, let's be honest. If you're running an evil campaign, it just doesn't make sense for you. You can be an Ardling, but like it just... Damage resistance radiant has always been something that I feel like comes up so rare. And they already have this crappy jump ability. The only thing that's impressive is their spell list. And honestly, it's okay. I can see the jump ability being cool. But again, just give your players... If you give your players a Boots of Springing and Striding, it's an uncommon magic item. I know it requires attunement, but I don't know. Less than impressive. Let's move on to Dragonborn. They have done my boys dirty. Fizbin did all that research, all that work to give us everything we needed to know about Dragonborn for them to spit on him. Now, these Dragonborns are a definite upgrade from the old PHB Dragonborns. They're a definite downgrade from Fizbin's Dragonborn. I'll be honest, I don't feel comfortable talking too much about Dragonborns because I've never been impressed by them. I've never liked playing them too much. I've made entire campaigns where the main characters were Dragonborns. I have ran sessions with Dragonborn only parties, and it's been fun. Some of my players love Dragonborn. One is a Dragonborn main. It's interesting. I've created entire storylines around it, but me personally, if I ever play, I'm not going to play Dragonborn. I find it interesting that they dropped gem dragons and have only included chromatic and metallic. I do feel like if they were trying to save room, because I think a lot of the new things they've changed have been to save space in the text, and again, we'll address that later in the PDF. They could have just doubled up, like copper and black. I could just say, in the Draconic Ancestry, you could say dragon, black/copper, acid, blue/bronze, lightning. You know, like they could have saved themselves some room. But that's neither here nor there. It was their decision. So, cool. The breath weapon is improvement. I think I like it. I think it scales well. I don't have any problems with the breath weapon. I think honestly that's okay. Damage resistance better than radiant. You get to choose your damage resistance based on whatever dragon type you choose. Cool. First race with dark vision. First two, Ardlings and humans, no dark vision, but they have the Dragonborns have it, so we're starting to see that dark vision. Interesting enough, the dragons are so far the only ones that start with a racial language. Most of them, you don't start with a racial language, so that is an interesting change that they've decided. But yeah, the dragons no draconic, just inherently. Moving over to the dwarves. The dwarf has caused a lot of hoopla. I'm going to spend a second on the dwarves because I personally like what they've done to the dwarves. Again, dwarves have dark vision, like the dragons. Like I said, we're going to see a lot of dark vision coming up here soon. The Dwarven Resilience, still pretty much the same. Dwarven Toughness, now just what you get. You don't have to pick the specific subclass. I highlighted Forge-wise because I think from everything we're going to see throughout this PDF and a lot of hint, hint, wink, winks, I think tools are going to be more impressive and useful. Throughout the Player Handbook, the Dungeon Master's Guide, and Xanathar's, you could kind of come up with a system for crafting or creating things or working on stuff, but not neatly. It really, like, it's been this really weird thing that they sometimes get super descriptive and, like, specific about, but then other times they just don't and just kind of throw it to the wind. Again, that's their decision. I just don't understand it. I think they need to either just make crafting an NPC thing, like you can work with these, blah blah blah, do this behind the scenes downtime with NPCs, or make it a player thing and have a more detailed thing. They set it up and they just don't follow through with a lot of this crafting stuff. I think we're going to see a change in that. I think we're going to see a lot of crafting, a lot of they're taking a lot of these they're noticing a lot of house rules and homebrew rules were around crafting. I think they're looking at what third-party stuff is selling well, and one of those things is like Monster Hunter third-party stuff where it's like you can make these items after these monsters. Any DM that's tried running a campaign similar to that where you get the dragon scales, cool, what do you do with them? The only thing in there only thing canonical content has is like dragon armor, not dragon shield, not dragon tipped arrows, not making a bow out of their wings. Like, you have to get third-party content for that. I think we're going to see a change here. And Forge-wise is the first sign of that for me. I'm not going to talk about stone cunning and their trimmer sense because 1,001 videos on it. everyone's talked about it. But overall, got rid of their sub-races. Sub-races don't exist anymore. They call them lineages if they have them. But most races are just the race. Coming down to elves. Elves have dark vision. The elven lineage, like I said, they talked about drow, wood elf, and high elf. You're going to pick one of those. You have the Fey ancestry, advantage on saving throws against the charm condition. You have proficiency with perception skill, and you finish a long rest in 4 hours. So the drow have dancing lights, dark vision up to 120 feet, fairy fire, darkness. Pretty decent, pretty thematical. I'm pretty sure it's on par with what the drow used to have. High elf, the prestidigitation cantrip. Whenever you finish a long rest, you can replace that cantrip with a different cantrip from the Arcane Spell list. Okay, cool. I get what they're doing. I think it's weird that they're like, you have to start with prestidigitation, but after your very first long rest of the campaign, fuck it, do whatever you want. Like, just, you could have just wrote in there, pick a cantrip from the Arcane Spell list, and you can change out every long rest. You know, like, to tell you have to start with prestidigitation, so like session 1, you have that, and then your very first long rest, you can throw it out the window and never have it again. I don't know. I feel like that was kind of a weird thing. If they made it to where you can change it at every level up, it would make sense that they specifically start you with prestidigitation. But if they're going to let you do it at every long rest, I don't see why they make you start with a specific spell. Wood Elf increases your speed to 35 feet. You get an extra 5 feet of movement. That's pretty cool. Druid Craft, weaker of the cantrip, the versatile cantrips, but still useful. Longstrider, Pass Without a Trace, very thematic. It really, like, they're following the Wood Elf falls really into the stealthy assassin archer kind of flavor, which I thought they were trying to get away from, which is why another thing I forgot to talk about, between dwarves and elves, I don't know if you've noticed, they have lost their armor and weapon proficiencies. No more elven weapon proficiencies, dwarven weapon or armor proficiencies, so no more wizards getting medium armor proficiency by going dwarf, no more starting with longbow proficiency as an elf. You don't get weapons or armor proficiencies through races. I personally find that interesting. I like that. I wonder if we're going to see a way to gain them outside of our classes, or if it is literally the only way to get those things by getting them from classes. That will change a lot of multi-class builds, or it will change a lot of mono builds to be multi-class builds. Because now everyone's going to want to take that level 1 fighter to start and then branch off and get their main classes. I personally don't know how I feel about that. It really depends on how it comes out in gameplay. We're coming down to gnomes now. Gnomes, 425 years old, cool. They're short, small, awesome. They have dark vision like the other ones. Gnomish Cunning. You have advantage on intelligence, wisdom, and charisma saving throws. That, I personally think, is really cool. I never played a gnome before this, so I didn't know that that was already kind of a thing. I think that's really cool. They did create this gnomish lineage thing. I like it. It's pretty cool. Minor Illusion Cantrip. The Minor Illusion Cantrip is a unique cantrip because it is, in the hands of a creative player, it is one of the strongest cantrips in the game. In the hands of a player that doesn't think about that too much, that isn't that creative, it's really a wasted cantrip. It's pretty useless. There's almost no in between. So that's pretty cool. Speak with animals. Alright, that's alright. It comes into play every now and then. The Mending, again, pretty cool cantrip. Depends on when you use it. I've had it be super life-saving in a game, but then I've had other people be like, I've never used this cantrip. The prestidigitation, tiny clockwork device thing, you can read about that. It's pretty cool. You just basically get a unique way to use prestidigitation. But that's pretty much it. They got rid of the sub-races, gave them lineages, and the lineages give you some unique abilities, but aren't too drastically different. We're coming down to Halflings. Now, Halflings is another race that doesn't have dark vision. So I believe we are 3 for 4 right now, if I'm not mistaken. 3 no dark vision, 4 dark vision. So, okay, pretty cool. Halflings are small. They have the brave. They changed Halfling nimbleness to where you can't... I believe you used to be able to stop as long as the creature was a friendly creature. You could stop in their square. I may be wrong about that. But being able to pass through other squares, so if you disengage, you can literally run through the enemy's square without getting an attack of opportunity, which is pretty cool. And then, of course, luck is already pretty cool. They've always had that. They use the term, I think this is the first time we see it in the game, in the material, D20 test. That's going to come up later. You've probably heard a lot about this. I personally think this is one of the okay rules. I think this is them trying to save space on text. Because what this means is ability check, saving throw, and attack roll. So when instead of asking make me an ability check, or instead of saying make me a attack roll or saving throw, you can just say give me a D20 test and add this modifier. I think this allows you to use the terminology and still be a little mysterious. So if I want them to make a dex save, but I don't want to say the word dex save, I can say give me a D20 test and add your dexterity modifier. I don't know. That's a bad example because then I would have to ask if they're proficient dexterity saves. It's whatever. It's the main point is they're trying to save text space, right? So making room for more text in the books. Maybe the books will be smaller, or this means they can shove more shit in the books. Who knows? We'll find out when they actually finally release it. All right, orcs. They got rid of half-elves, they got rid of half-orcs. I'm sure you've heard about that. Now to be a hybrid, you have to have a human or another 2 races get together, have bard relations, and then they produce you, and you just pick which parent you get the abilities from. So orc, elf, you can be that. You can have the aesthetics of that, but you either pick your orc features or orc traits or elf traits for your actual given abilities. Now, orcs have Adrenaline Rush. You take the dash action as a bonus. Dash action as a bonus action. I like this. I like this because my orc barbarian coming into combat and having to double dash to get to the fucking bad guy and then stop before hitting them has always been annoying. Now I can dash as a bonus action and smack that baddie in the face with my battle axe. I love it. You also get hit points equal to your proficiency bonus. So not only do I get to dash in front of him, I get to dash in front of him and have an extra 2 HP at level 1. The only problem I have with it being based on your proficiency bonus is this racial ability will not come in late game. When you are playing this at 10th level, it's not going to really help. And the reason I say it's not going to really help is you already have the ability up here, Relentless Endurance, that if you go down to 0, you come back up. The main point of temp HP, even if it's just a little bit, is to keep you from going down from a big hit or something, or to eat some of that. If you have a character with the aid spell and you're level 10, I don't see myself using this for the temp HP because the aid spell is going to be better. I might literally just use this for the dash action, which is fine because I think that's awesome. The temp HP is just like a little bit on top for lower levels. So all in all, I don't have a problem with it. I think it's pretty cool. I just don't see you using the temp HP half of it later in the game. They also have dark vision. Well, there we go. Now we've got a good bit of dark vision in these races. More with than without, I believe. The powerful build, alright, I get powerful build thematically, but I think it's a cop-out. I think it's just we don't know what else to give this race to make them unique, so we're going to give them powerful build. In my party, I am playing Korndoth the Guide, a Goliath, once Rune Knight, turned Forge Cleric. At the height of his strength, which we did end up changing because he switched over to Forge Cleric, so his strength actually got reduced. It was a whole thematic story thing. It was fun, but the point is, I could carry 600 pounds. Easy. My carrying capacity. Unhindered. Right? Wasn't messing me up at all. So literally just carrying 600 pounds, not breaking a sweat. The fact that my guy couldn't just one-hand swing a great sword, hard to explain when he can just carry 600 pounds on a fucking 2-week trek in the mountains. But whatever. It can be useful. It can be fun. I just think it's one of those things that, okay, you just ran out of creativity for this and just threw powerful build on there. But I'll take it. Player handbook class that has powerful build. Fun. We're going to move over to Tieflings now. Now, Tieflings have dark vision. Boom. And I believe, yep, Tieflings can also be small or medium. So, again, pretty cool versatility there. They have the Legacies as well. So now instead of the 32 different sub-races of Tiefling, you go down to the 3 Legacies. The Infernal is going to be the most similar to your OG Tiefling. Cool. I think it's pretty nice. You get Firebolt, Hellish Rebuke, Darkness. Cool. You also get Fire Resistance. So every one of them gets Resistance. I think Resistance is pretty cool. Some people say it doesn't come into play a lot, but I just like I like when it does. Right? When you're fighting zombies and your Chthonic Tiefling is like, yeah, actually I take half damage from their shit. And it's like, oh, cool. Or the poison, I think it's pretty interesting. Now, the Abyssal Tiefling having Hold Person at 5th level. The reason I highlighted this is pretty powerful is because if you look, where is it going to be up here? Okay. Yeah. Starting at 3rd level and again at 5th level, you gain the ability to cast higher level spells with this trait, as shown on the table. So we get Hold Person at 5th level. Once you cast a spell with this trait, you can't cast that spell again until you finish a long rest. However, you can cast this spell using any spell slot you have of the appropriate level. Intelligence, Wisdom, or Charisma is your spellcasting ability. So instead of picking the ability for you, they're letting you pick your highest. So originally you're like, Hold Person, I don't know, it'll be cool, but if they make the save, yeah, they might make the save. But you get to pick which knowledge skill or which skill you pick, intelligence, wisdom, or charisma. So you can be a fighter, and whatever of those skills is higher is the one you pick. It adds a lot more versatility in it, and I really like that. I really do. It almost lets you be a charismatic character and pick that. Because if I'm playing a bard, and I pick Hold Person, maybe like getting to use that with my charisma instead of like intelligence, or something like that. It just allows me to have more fun with it. I do like them cutting the tethers off of that. So same thing goes with, your attack for Firebolt and Hellish Rebuke. That's all of this stuff is going to be made based off of whatever you choose the highest of those 3 skills are. Backgrounds. This is what I was talking about earlier. We have finally gotten to it. Backgrounds are everything now. You get your ability modifiers from backgrounds. you get skill proficiencies from background, you get a tool proficiency, you get a language, and you get your feat. So 1 free feat, 1 free tool proficiency, 1 free language, 2 skills of your choice, and you get to add +2/+1 or 3+1s to any ability scores of your choice. They give us some sample backgrounds here. And again, the tool proficiency. It used to be not every background got a tool proficiency. So now the fact that every background not only gets a feat, but also a tool proficiency, they're making tools more useful. Tools are going to play a bigger part in the next iteration of D&D. I'm calling it now, and I really hope I'm right. So this is all cool. I like it. You also get 50 gold piece budget for getting your gear. You can choose to get no gear from your background, just get your gear from your class and take 50 gold pieces, which is really cool. But I would personally get extra shit just for fun. Now, I'm scrolling through some of these. They look cool. They have the cultist, +2 intelligence, +1 charisma. Another thing is, if you like some of these pre-generated backgrounds, they're also customizable. So let's say I like the cultist, but I don't want the +1 in charisma. I can put the +1 in dexterity. Maybe I want to be a cultist, but I'm actually a paladin for that cult. Maybe I'm one of those Oathbreaker paladins that follow this cult. Well, now I'm going to give myself, instead of intelligence, I'm going to give myself charisma as the +2 and then +1 in the intelligence and still take magic initiate. Or the +2/+1 will go in strength. Since when I take magic initiate, I get to pick wisdom, intelligence, or charisma as my spellcasting ability. So why would I double down into intelligence as a charisma build? There's no need, right? All of this is really cool. The one thing I will complain about, they have, while simultaneously buffing backgrounds, have taken away from backgrounds. The Gladiator was a variant of the Entertainer background. The Gladiator, the Entertainer, used to always be able to find somewhere to perform when they're in a town, whether it be an inn, a tavern, so if you're a gladiator and you went to a city, you could find a fight pit using your Entertainer background, and you could go earn some gold. Sage, you used to have the ability to always know where you can find information. You may not know the information, but you know there's a wizard's tower in town we can go to. There's a library, or if we want to learn this thing, we should go to the church. Really cool. A lot of these, those abilities are now gone, right? Those abilities are now folk hero, being able to always find home, like shelter, and be taken care of by the citizens of lower class. That's gone. You no longer have these things, which I don't necessarily want to call a nerf, because what you're getting in place of them is very valuable, but it does take some of the uniqueness away from the backgrounds. But they made that decision. I'm not going to complain about it, because we get a free first level feat, and the rest of it can be just flavor. And it also does keep any one background from being awesome, because that's one of the problems. They said you could customize your backgrounds back in the day anyways. It's just they gave you backgrounds to pick from first, and now they're doing the reverse, telling you to customize. If you don't want to customize, they have backgrounds for you. If you custom built a background with the original player's handbook, you didn't get those awesome abilities. You just got equipment, skills, and stuff like that. You didn't get the, I can always go and find somewhere to sell stolen goods and find, underground information. You didn't get those kind of things with the custom background. You don't get them now, but you also don't get them with the pre-generated backgrounds. So it's level playing field, I guess. But again, I'm torn on this. I'm 50-50. They made backgrounds a lot more interesting. I like them, but I am probably going to miss being able to have my folk hero just knock on a door and be like, I am Gordendoth. Give me shelter. That's gone. But again, I'm not too hurt by it. I'm just a little disappointed. Moving on. We're now going to feats. The feats, pretty cool. These are all the first level feats. So these are feats that you get for free. Unless you're a human, you get 2 of these. Alert, I think, is an awesome feat. I'm going to show you a build I made with Alert that is, I call it the Boy Wonder. Pretty cool. You can swap your initiative, so your wizard can go before the barbarian. So now you have more battlefield control, and I like to think of this as kind of like, you know how Flash of Genius for the Artificer is you use your intelligence to know and kind of give the party direction, or give yourself like an ability, you know, it's kind of like Sherlock Holmes, how he's narrating in slow motion. I think of that same scenario with this initiative swap. You see everything going down before everybody. You notice the wizard's not tracking along as fast as you are, so you get to tell him like a quick yell out directions or something dramatic to bring the wizard's attention to the situation and help guide his thoughts to being like, yeah, about to hit that man with a hold person, you know? And that's the initiative swap. You're letting the wizard go before, you know, you're moving initiatives because the wizard rolled low, but he needs to go first. I think that's awesome. This feat right here, this goes to my crafting is coming. Crafting is going to be big. Why? Because I can start with 3 different Artisans Tools. I can literally make a build that has proficiency in almost every crafting tool there is, which is awesome. Thematically making your first level character used to be the town blacksmith, and when the town got attacked, he decided to pick up his hammer and go fight. But then when you're actually in game, like at level 6, it's just like, hey, didn't you used to be a blacksmith for most of your life? He's like, yeah. Well, can you make something? I can only make like these 3. No. Now he's like, fuck yeah, what do you want me to make you? And that's why I think it's going to be such a big deal, and I love it. Another one, musician. Musician's going to be a big deal. Now, why am I saying musician's going to be a big deal? Is because you get it at first level. If you're a bard, this is awesome. If you're not a bard, it's still okay. If you have the performance skill and you have the musician feat, you're going to be going to town and you're going to make money. Why? Because if you're playing with a tool you're proficient in and you're doing a performance check to try and earn some gold, you now have advantage on that roll, as well as getting to add your modifier. That's going to be big. Advantage is big. You're going to get advantage. Like, you no longer have to struggle to get advantage. You just have to make a character that you know how they're going to get advantage. Right? The human has advantage once a day, every day. Whereas the musician can get advantage by just musical instrument performance. If you're a smith and you want to, you know, not the spell identify, but just identify a magical item by using your smith tools to kind of like check it out, tap your hammer against the sword, drag a file across to check its edge, as well as your history skill that you're proficient in, you now have advantage on that check. Again, awesome. Another reason I like this specific feat is you, on a short rest or long rest, you strum your loot a little bit, and then everyone has inspiration until their next rest. Awesome. If you have a party of 4 people, the number of allies you can affect this way is equal to proficiency bonus. Level 1, a 4-man party. One of them is a human. You strum your loot and get to give 2, or let's say 2 of them are human. Now let's say you and the other one are human. You already have inspiration. The other human has inspiration. You strum your loot. The other 2 have inspiration now. Or you just leave one person out, and then whoever rolls a 20 throughout the game, if they still have inspiration, get to give that inspiration to the other person. That's right. The change to inspiration one of the changes is you get to give inspiration to another player if you already have it and you earned it. So if you earn inspiration and you already have one still in your pocket, you don't just waste it. You give it to someone else. Pretty cool. Again, Magic Initiate. The cool thing about this is you get to choose where is it? It's up here. You get to choose which ability is your spellcasting ability. You have to choose it when you select the feat, but it's still really fucking cool. I personally like also that whenever you game a new level, you can replace one of the spells. I like that. Flavor, I don't know. I think if I'm trying to explain why I have the Magic Initiate feat, and then all of a sudden later on I'm like, oh yeah, I don't know that spell anymore. I changed out for another. I don't know. Flavor-wise, I can see that being a little uncomfortable. But having skills like the Crafter, Magic Initiate, a Battle Medic, or the Healer feat, a lot of what I'm seeing is Session 0, Level 0 gameplay. Now, I know most of you have heard of Session 0, but you haven't heard of Level 0. Guarantee it. A few people probably, but most of you probably not. What am I saying? Probably 5 people are going to listen to this video. So, what, 2, 3 of you haven't heard of it? Okay, whatever. Level 0s are where you don't factor in class. It's more like a prologue to the campaign. You do Session 0. Level 0 is more like a cutscene. The DM runs it. It's like the hook for the quest. It's you all meet in a tavern, but hopefully better than just meeting in a tavern. The Level 0 I plan on running with my next campaign is a small village. All of you are members of the village. The village gets attacked, ransacked. You guys are like the only survivors of the attack. So Level 0, they have their Magic Initiate feat because that comes with the background, right? But their actual class features and their class abilities don't come into effect. So when they're playing, all they have are their racial abilities and their background abilities. Why? Because a Level 0 is kind of railroady, but it's literally, like I said, just a prologue. They introduce their characters. I introduce the difficulty and the shit they're going to run into, and it sets up for them to take over and enter the sandbox. It's the railroad where the train delivers them to the sandbox. Okay, guys? Don't get mad at me, but I like Level 0s. They can be fun. If you have these house rules, which are now looking to be actual rules, because I've always let people have a level 1 feat, but I've always had the issue of, here, pick a level 1 feat that's flavorful, and they're like, I want Great Weapon Master. Okay, but come on, man, pick something different. You know what I mean? Now I don't have to make that awkward conversation with them at all. I don't have to have it. I just pick a level 1 feat. Because none of them are honestly that OP. Magic Initiate and Lucky are probably the 2 best. Tough is pretty good. Savage Attacker, I like the change to Savage Attacker because it now applies to ranged weapons. It used to only be melee weapons. Now it is ranged weapons. Really cool. The thing I don't like about Savage Attacker is at higher levels, it's useless. And the reason I say that is because you have to declare that you're using Savage Attacker before you roll the damage die. So if I'm making 1 attack a turn, awesome. Because then I just always use it. Once I'm making 2, 3 attacks a turn, if I use it with the wrong attack, I've wasted it. Because if I use it for my first attack and then I roll double 6s on the first roll, well, alright. Shit, wasted my Savage Attacker. And then my second attack, I rolled double 1s. Well, alright, really wasted my Savage Attacker. I don't necessarily like that they changed that. I think they should have just kept it for when you roll damage, you can choose to re-roll and take the higher of the 2 rolls. Only do this once per round or turn. I think that's fine. I don't think that's too OP. I don't get why they took that away. Tavern Brawler, tough. I think having a dwarf with tough will be crazy because you get 3 HP every turn. Like, I'm just going to make a barbarian dwarf and just be unkillable. Now, you'll be killable, but you know what I mean. Artisans Tools, I've already talked about that enough. I beat you over the head with the hammer on that. Here's D20 Tests. Again, this is the part where they're saying it's going to be, you know, saving throws, attack rolls, all that good shit. This is what you've seen the most debate about. I guarantee it. You have probably seen the most complaints coming about this new fail and success table or the critical hits. Because what this does now is if you roll a 1, you auto-fail regardless of modifiers. A lot of people complaining about that, being like, what if I have a plus 10 and the DC is 10 and I roll a 1? I still fail. Okay, 1, if you have a plus 10, what the hell are you doing? Like, the DM shouldn't have you rolling if the DC is 10. Like, I just won't have you roll. If it's something that simple and you have that big of a modifier, I'm just like, yeah, you just can do that shit in your sleep. Okay? What they're probably mistaken, though, is the rogue's, like, ability to just have a 10 on a 9 or lower, which is different. Because if the specific language there is whenever you roll 9 or lower, you treat it as a 10. That null voids this. That null voids critically failing with a 1. Because it's not actually a 1. Because of your class ability, it's a 10. So people need to calm down, think about that. The whole rolling a 20 means you auto-succeed. Everyone's like, well then, what if the DC's 30, they roll a 20 and they have a -1? Bro, listen to me. It's okay. It's going to be fine. Why does the barbarian know about this ancient magic sword that's cursed and your wizard doesn't? Well, yeah, maybe because while the barbarian was sitting in booking waiting to get released for his assault charges when he lost his temper in the bar, he was sitting next to a scholar who was getting charged for tax fraud, who just was practicing his speech for his next class when he got out, and it happened to be about this cursed object. Like, real world, ride the subway and see what odd shit you know. I have a guy I work with who for no reason knows in detail birth dates and like birthplaces of like 1800s authors. He's not a big literature guy. He just happens to know most of that shit because of some class he sat in that it just stuck with him. It's okay for them to succeed. If you don't want them to make the roll, don't ask for the roll. I did see someone talking about how this is going to be harder for new DMs. I would just make the rule that if they're going to roll a history check, they need to be proficient. Or they need to have background reason why they would know that. They need to explain that to me. So if I'm like, yeah, roll a history check to see what the hell is up with these ruins. The dude from across the country that got teleported here on accident is not going to be able to make that roll. The criminal with no history proficiency that grew up in the underground of the main city 20 miles away, probably not going to let him make the roll either. The wizard that has the sage background, yeah, you're going to be allowed to make that roll, even if you're not proficient. That's just how it is. I think just they need to put in here like more guidelines for newer DMs on how to work with this, and I really don't think it's a big deal. I think everyone needs to let it go. Gaming sets, specifically labeled a tool. So if I'm trying to play, if I'm playing a game of cards and I'm proficient with cards as my tool, and I make a sleight of hand check, I now have advantage because we're playing a card game and I have proficiency with the card gaming set and I'm using sleight of hand, which I have proficiency with. I now have advantage. Fucking awesome. right? That's stuff people aren't talking about. The fact that gaming sets are specifically now can be gained through tool proficiency. Same with instruments. Magical instruments are also, or musical instruments, not magical, are also a tool. Super cool. Unarmed Strikes, I'm not going to get too into that because I think those need to be play tested. As a reaction, you can now make a grapple because grapples only require you to beat their AC. Awesome. So if the big baddie goes to run away from you and you have a free hand, grab that bitch by the back of their hair and pull them back and say, "Get over here." I like that. I think that's pretty cool. Yeah. Not too hurt about it. Tool proficiencies, again, another set thing for tools. Like they've talked about tools in this more than they've talked about spells. I'm gonna be honest. Like they've talked about the different spell lists and how they've introduced the 3, which are down here, but they've really hit on tool proficiencies. So my final thoughts on tool proficiencies, they're gonna be huge. I'm telling you, it's gonna be huge. So let's look at spells. This is the last thing we're gonna do before I show you my sample build that I made using Character Origins. I like the new spell list. They have 3: Arcane, Divine, and Primal. Arcane is your... Let's see if I can go up here. Let's go back up to Arcane. I scrolled past it. That's my fault, guys. Divine spells, blah, blah, blah. Oh, is it going to be all the way? No. You guys are probably like, you're scrolling right past it, fucking dumbass. Yeah, I know I'm stupid. Please, don't be mean to me. Alright, whatever. Primal spells are druids and rangers. Cool. And then divine spells are going to be your clerics and paladins. And then arcane spells are pretty much everyone else. Arcane spells, here it is. Bards, sorcerers, warlocks, and wizards. So what that means is you have, these are now arcane spells. So I'm not sure how I'm supposed to build a level 1 character, right? Because if I'm building a level 1 warlock, my spell list is supposed to be off the warlock spell list. So does that mean I can also pull off the arcane spell list? Or do I only pull off the arcane spell list when I'm told to pull off the arcane spell list? Because again, if I scroll up here to arcane spells draw from ambient magic of the multiverse. Bards, sorcerers, warlocks, and wizards harness this magic, as do artificers. So, again, are they just saying these are spells, or like this is the type of magic that those classes use, or that I can pull off of this spell list? I'm going to assume, as of right now, I can't pull off this spell list unless it specifically says, which is why they included level 0 and level 1 spells just for Magic Initiate. So I'm going to assume that my warlock cannot pick up these magic missile for, just because he also pulls from the arcane spell list. But now I will say, if I make a wizard that has Magic Initiate arcane, I can get Armor of Agathis. So yeah, I don't get medium armor, but now I have temp HP, and I get to do damage to anyone who does a melee attack to me. Because I can pull from the warlock spell list, because this is now part of the arcane spell list. I can't pull from the warlock spell list, but some of the warlock spells are now on this list that I can pull from. So that's something I wanted to point out. It used to be original Magic Initiate did not let you pull from half-caster spell lists. The new Magic Initiate lets you pull from these 3 spell lists, which include half-caster spell lists. The Divine spell list has Divine Favor, a Paladin spell. The Primal has Hunter's Mark. So now any character you play, you can have Hunter's Mark at first level with a feat. That's pretty awesome. I am hesitant but optimistic about how this will work. I do think what they're doing is you're going to have an arcane spell list, a divine spell list, and a primal spell list. But you're not going to see the stuff that's on the sorcerer spell list is going to be smaller. So the sorcerer spell list, those are spells just for sorcerers. You are not going to see that spell list overlap. So whatever spells they have on the sorcerer spell list are going to just be sorcerer spells. And then wizard spells the same. And then they'll just let you also pull off of the shared arcane spell list. So I think they're going to do something unique. I don't know. This is all opinion. I just feel like this is pretty interesting. I do notice Eldritch Blast isn't on here. So, again, are they just going to have your individual class spell lists, and then occasionally you can pull from the arcane spells? So maybe every time, every like 4 levels, you can pull your spells choices instead of just your class spell list off of the other main spell list. Who knows? We'll see. They did mention that you'll have where is it? Arcane. We'll show how classes use these spell lists and how a class or subclass might gain spells from another list. So again, I don't know. I think this is an interesting sign of things to come. I do feel like there's not a lot of divine cantrips, but I'm fine with that because divine first level spells are pretty awesome. So I'm not too worried. I like it. I don't like this Unearthed Arcana only because it's a tease. I find it really hard to test a lot of this material without knowing what changes they're making to classes. Right? It's really hard for me to... You're supposed to just test this material at face value. You're not supposed to assume what's to follow. That's the proper way to play test. I just don't see how I can do that fairly with this little information. Because the changes could be amazingly good or amazingly shite depending on what they do with classes. Depending on how classes change or how they don't change and how that synergizes with this first Unearthed Arcana is going to be what makes or breaks it. Because this standing alone is okay if they change nothing else. If this is the only stuff that's getting changed, cool. I really just, there has to be an Unearthed Arcana that is going to be specifically about crafting and like the use of tools. And I say that because if they don't test that out, they're going to make an awful system. They need to play test crafting because I can tell they have intentions of including crafting. But if they're going to do that without playtesting it, it's going to turn out awful because they just haven't done a good job yet. And the fact that they have continuously failed to do a good job, I do not trust them to do it on their own. They need to release it, let us playtest it. If they don't plan on changing crafting and I'm wrong, they're wasting our fucking time with some of these changes. Some of these changes are pointless if they're not revamping the crafting system. That's all I have to say about that. I'm done with the spells. I've reviewed the races. Overall, I would give the Orc a good rating. I think they've made the Orc now a viable ranged character. I like the Halflings. Their bravery and their ability, their luck is pretty good. Gnomes, I love their ability to make saving throws. I like the changes to magic. All in all, I give this Unearthed Arcana a B. It may be an A depending on what comes out next. I may change my ranking. But as of right now, I'm going to give it a B. Yeah, I'm just going to stick with B. Not B minus, not B plus, just a B. I think the Abyssal Tiefling having Hold Person is awesome. I think the thing that nerfs it is the Ray of Sickness and Poison Spray, because everything has poison resistance. So cool. That's shit. Getting fire resistance is always cool, as well as spells. I think that puts this above the Dragonborn. Human getting the extra feet is just, it makes it S tier. If you're looking at just races, I'd put human as S tier if you're trying to make any generic build. If you're trying to make a specific build, you can definitely outdo the human with some other races. But again, I think the human is just the most, because they made them so versatile and gave them that extra feat. I can start with all kinds of abilities and all kinds of custom. I could have a party of 4 humans, and they're so vastly different. Hell, they can be the same class, and because of these changes in backgrounds, if each of them choose a different feat and a different background, a party of 4 fighter humans, all drastically different, and I like that. So what I did, we're going to move right over here. I made a sample build called Boy Wonder, a rogue level 1. I chose human, the new human, and I took the skilled feat as well as the alert feat. So what that and then I did point buy for the abilities, and then I added I believe I did 3 plus 1s, if I'm not mistaken. I can't remember, but this is using point buy plus the background modifiers. The 0 in strength, because I'm a rogue. I'm not worried about strength. 16 in dexterity, giving me a plus 3. Constitution, went a little low on that with just a 14, but you know what? The point of a rogue is to not get hit. So if I'm getting hit, I'm not having a good day, so I might as well not bump up Constitution too much. Intelligence and Wisdom, I put a 12 and 14 plus 1 plus 2, mainly because I do plan on making this an Inquisitive Rogue, so those are going to be important abilities. And then a Charisma, 10, because again, I'm going to depend on my proficiency bonus and my tools for a lot of this stuff. So if I'm trying to sneak into somewhere, I'm going to use a disguise kit. If I'm trying to pick a lock, I'm going to use a lock pick. And I'm just gonna use tools to supplement some of these things. I'm gonna have gaming set proficiency, a disguise kit proficiency. I'm gonna try and pick up, I can't remember whatever, because I don't know how else to get. I'm hoping to get other proficiencies along the way, but right now I don't have them, but I'm hoping to get them, to use those kits. Now, because I get 1 skill proficiency from my race as a human, and then 3 from skilled, I'm now at 4. 2 from my background, I'm now at 6. And then 4 from rogue, I'm now at 10 skills I can be proficient in. So of course, I went with acrobatics as a rogue. I have a plus 5. Deception, I have a plus 2. Insight, plus 4. Intimidation, plus 2, investigation, plus 5, medicine, 4, perception, 4, persuasion, 2, sleight of hand, 5, stealth is where I drop my expertise for a 7. I didn't add any of my other stuff in here because it's just a sample build. My initiative, because I took alert feat, I get to add my modifier to it, so I have a plus 5 to initiative. I like this build. Boy Wonder is pretty nice, and I have inspiration, which means if I'm stuck in a situation where I can't get advantage, I'm gonna burn that inspiration and get advantage. Now, one thing about inspiration you need to keep in mind that they changed is you have to declare inspiration before the roll. You cannot have a shitty roll and then decide to use inspiration. You have to use it first. Sucks if you declare it and then roll 2 great rolls, but you know, you live and you learn. Whatever. The other cool thing about always having inspiration as a human is if you ever get it, you can bounce it over to your teammates. This is my sample build. Playing with it was pretty fun. I threw this PDF together just for the video. I have a more completed one on my phone. All in all, I love it. This is great. Once I get higher in level and I get that ability to where if I'm proficient in it, I don't roll lower than a 9 or it just allows me to have the ultimate skill monkey right now. Honestly, if instead of taking alert, if I had taken another skilled feat, because it is repeatable, and I had gotten 4 more skills, I mean, geez, what would I have even taken? Like, at that point, I'm running out of things to pick. I'm just picking things to just have a skill in it. I like it. I also recreated my Goliath, but I made him a dwarf, because when I played him in the campaign, he was a master crafter, or that was his goal, and it just sucked dick. It was awful trying to be a master crafter in OG 5e without using homebrew rules. We had to start I had to sit down with the DM, and we had to discuss homebrewing, because I was just so unimpressed with it. Like, it just wasn't for me. We had to make some adjustments. And then I also never had advantage on anything. I just used my proficiency. But now with these new rules, I can always argue, or not argue, but I can always present like I'm doing X and I'm using my tools to make it, to identify it, to test it, to do this or that. I'm trying to, tamper with the catapults on the enemy side that we've snuck in. Well, I have woodworkers or stonemasons tool proficiency, and he can make me make any kind of check, and I can roll with advantage. I like it. Overall, I like the changes, but I am cautiously optimistic because they could easily fuck it up with how they do classes. I think we should expect to see massive changes to how you get weapon and armor proficiencies and how you get expanded spells. One thing I would like to see is the warlock spell lists changed so they are expanded spell lists that are always prepared, because there is so many spells on the warlock spell lists, their expanded spell lists get ignored because they're not prepared spells. You have to learn those spells in place of warlock spells. So you're taking a class that already has such limited spells and giving them more choices, but not better choices. I think just making them always prepared, like the clerics, would be better. That's my opinion. This is my review on the Unearthed Arcana. If you have any comments, questions, concerns, anything you want to highlight, anything you want to point out to me that I missed, or that you don't think I considered, or that you think I got wrong, drop them down below. And hopefully when the next one comes out, I'll be back here with my opinions again, because Lord knows the internet needs more straight white men's opinions. This is me signing out.